At 2:47 in the morning, I was sitting on the cold floor of a SpaceX factory in Hawthorne, California. 3 rockets had exploded. My marriage had just ended. My bank account was almost at zero, and I was crying. Not because of the rockets, not because of the money, but because my 6-year-old son had asked me on the phone that night, "Dad, why don't you live with us anymore?" And I had no answer. I sat there, a man who wanted to colonize Mars, but couldn't even hold his own family together. The media called me a genius. The internet called me a visionary. But that night, on that cold factory floor, I was just a broken man who had forgotten what love felt like. And everyone around me, my friends, my advisors, even my own mother, they whispered the same thing. Elon, maybe you're just not built for love. Maybe some people are meant to change the world, but not meant to be loved. And you know what? For a long time, I believed them. Let that satisfying silence sit for a moment, because I know there are people in this room right now, people watching this on a screen somewhere at 1 a.m. with the lights off, people driving in their car with tears they won't admit to, who have heard that same whisper, not from the world, from inside themselves. You're too broken. You're too complicated. You're too much. You're not enough. Love isn't meant for people like you. And tonight, I'm standing here, not as a CEO, not as an engineer, not as whatever character the internet has made me into, but as a man who has been divorced 3 times, who has loved and lost publicly in front of the entire world, who has been called cold, robotic, emotionally unavailable, narcissistic, every label you can imagine. And I'm standing here to tell you one thing. They were wrong. They were wrong about me, and they are wrong about you. Let me take you back, way back, before Tesla, before SpaceX, before any of this. I grew up in Pretoria, South Africa, and I need you to understand something about my childhood that most people gloss over because it doesn't fit the billionaire genius narrative. I was bullied, severely. I was beaten so badly once that I was hospitalized. Kids threw me down a flight of concrete stairs and kicked me until I lost consciousness. When I woke up in the hospital, I remember looking at my father and hoping, praying that he would hold me, that he would say, "Son, I'm going to protect you. You're safe now." He didn't. My father, Errol Musk, was a complicated man. I'll leave it at that, because some wounds don't need to be reopened in public. But I will say this. The first place I learned that love was conditional, that love was something you had to earn, that love could be weaponized and withdrawn at any moment, was in my own home. And that lesson, that poisonous, destructive lesson, it followed me for decades. Because here's what happens when you learn as a child that love is unreliable. You start building walls. Not physical walls, emotional walls, titanium-grade heat shield level walls, the kind that could survive atmospheric re-entry. And I built mine so well, so efficiently, so perfectly, that by the time I was an adult, no one could get in. Not even the people I desperately wanted to let in. I met my first wife, Justine, in college at Queen's University in Ontario. She was brilliant, beautiful, fierce. I pursued her the way I pursue everything, with relentless, obsessive intensity. I called her. I showed up. I didn't stop. And eventually, she said yes. We got married. We built a life. We had children together, and I loved her. I truly did. But here's the thing. Nobody tells you about love when you're a person like me. Someone who thinks in systems, in logic, in efficiency. I loved her the way I would approach an engineering problem. I tried to optimize love. I tried to solve her. I tried to find the formula, the algorithm, the equation that would make our marriage work perfectly. And love doesn't work that way. Love is not a code you can debug. Love is not a rocket you can redesign after a failed launch. Love is messy, irrational, inefficient, and wildly unpredictable. And for someone whose entire identity is built on controlling variables and eliminating uncertainty, that was terrifying. So I did what I always do when something terrifies me. I worked. I buried myself in work. 14-hour days became 18-hour days. 18 became 20. I was physically present, but emotionally absent. I was in the room, but not in the relationship. I was holding her hand, but my mind was on Mars. And Justine, rightfully, courageously, she left. She didn't leave because she didn't love me. She left because I didn't know how to love her. Not the way she deserved, not the way any human being deserves. And when it ended, publicly, painfully, with every gossip column and tech blog dissecting our divorce like it was a quarterly earnings report, I felt something I hadn't felt since I was that kid in Pretoria lying on the hospital floor. I felt fundamentally, irreversibly unlovable. Now here's where most people expect me to say, and then I learned my lesson and everything changed. But that's not what happened. That's not how healing works. Healing is not a straight line. Healing is a SpaceX landing. You crash, you explode, you rebuild, you crash again, and maybe on the fourth or fifth attempt, you stick the landing. After Justine, I married again, Tallulah, twice actually. We married, divorced, remarried, and divorced again. And I'm not going to stand here and assign blame, because every relationship is a two-person equation, and I was at least 50% of the problem every single time. But what I will tell you is what I was doing, because I think a lot of you do this too and don't realize it. I was seeking love to fill a void that love alone cannot fill. I was looking for someone, a partner, a soulmate, a person to reach inside my chest and fix the thing that had been broken since childhood. I was asking another human being to do the work that only I could do. I was outsourcing my healing. And every time a relationship ended, the void got bigger. The walls got higher. The belief got stronger. You were too broken to love. You were too damaged. You were too intense, too distracted, too consumed by your mission. Love is a luxury that the universe has not allocated to you. I believed this. I genuinely believed this. And the world reinforced it. Article after article, tweet after tweet. Elon Musk's love life is a disaster. Elon Musk can build rockets, but can't sustain a relationship. Elon Musk is proof that genius and love don't coexist. And you start to internalize that narrative. You start to wear it like a second skin. You start to introduce yourself to new people with an invisible disclaimer. Warning, emotionally hazardous. Proceed with caution. Results may vary. Warranty void upon attachment. There was a night. I won't give you the exact date, but it was after the third rocket failure at SpaceX, right before Falcon 1's fourth launch. The company had almost no money left. Tesla was hemorrhaging cash. I had personally invested everything. I was borrowing money to pay rent, and I was alone. Not alone in the poetic romantic sense. Alone. Sitting in a rented house that didn't feel like a home, eating cold pizza at midnight, scrolling through photos of my kids on my phone because I wouldn't see them for another 2 weeks. And something broke. But this time, it wasn't the bad kind of breaking. It was the kind of breaking that happens when a bone heals wrong, and a doctor has to re-break it so it can heal properly. I broke open. I started asking myself questions I had avoided my entire life. Why do I believe I'm unlovable? Who told me that? And why did I believe them? What am I actually afraid of? Is it love I'm afraid of, or is it being truly seen? And that last question hit me like a Falcon 9 booster coming back to Earth. I wasn't afraid of love. I was afraid of being seen, fully, completely, without the armor, without the title, without the companies and the rockets and the electric cars and the grand vision. I was afraid that if someone saw the real me, the scared kid from Pretoria, the man who cries at animated movies, the person who sometimes can't sleep because the weight of responsibility feels crushing, they wouldn't stay because, in my experience, people didn't stay. And so I had spent my entire adult life making myself indispensable to companies, to employees, to the world, while simultaneously making myself emotionally unavailable to the people who actually wanted to love me. Not Elon Musk the brand, not Elon Musk the CEO, just Elon the person. I want to be honest with you. I didn't have some cinematic moment of transformation. There was no montage, no inspirational music swelling in the background. Healing was slow, unglamorous, and deeply uncomfortable. I started by doing something I had never done before. I sat with my pain instead of running from it. I stopped using work as an anesthetic, not entirely. Let's be realistic. I still work an obscene number of hours, but I started creating space. Space to feel, space to grieve, space to acknowledge that the little boy who was thrown down the stairs deserved compassion, not contempt. I started reading, not engineering papers or physics textbooks, but books about attachment theory, about emotional intelligence, about vulnerability. I read Brené Brown and felt personally attacked on every page. I read about avoidant attachment and thought, well, this is basically my biography. And slowly, painfully, imperfectly, I started to dismantle the walls, not all at once, wall by wall, brick by brick. Some days I'd remove a brick in panic and put it right back. Some days I'd tear down an entire section and feel so exposed that I'd want to rebuild the whole thing overnight. But I kept because I realized something profound. The same courage it takes to build a rocket that can land itself is the same courage it takes to look at another human being and say, I'm scared, but I'm here. I don't have it all figured out, but I'm trying. I might fail, but I want to try with you. Let me tell you what I've learned about love. And I want to be clear. I'm not an expert. I'm a student. I will always be a student. But here's what I've gathered so far. Love is not the absence of brokenness. Love is two broken people who choose each other anyway. Love is not finding someone who completes you. That's a beautiful line from a movie, but it's a terrible foundation for a relationship. Love is finding someone who sees your incompleteness and doesn't try to fix it or flee from it, but sits beside it. Love is not a destination. It's a daily decision. It's waking up every morning and choosing the same person, even on the days when choosing them is hard. Especially on those days, love is not about being perfect. It's about being present and presence. True, undistracted, phone down, eyes up presence is the most expensive gift you can give another human being in the 21st century. I know this because I failed at it for so long. I know the cost of absence because I paid it in missed moments, in strained relationships with my children, in the quiet devastation of partners who loved me but couldn't reach me. Now, I want to speak directly to you. Yes, you, the one who's been told they're too much, the one who's been told they're not enough, the one who has loved so hard that it left scars, and now you're afraid to love again because the last time nearly destroyed you. I see you, and I want you to hear me clearly. Your brokenness is not a disqualification from love. It is a prerequisite for it because only someone who has been broken understands the value of tenderness. Only someone who has been abandoned understands the power of staying. Only someone who has been told they are unlovable understands at the deepest cellular level what it means to look at another person and say, I choose you, not because you're perfect, because you're real. The world will try to convince you that you need to be whole before you can be loved. That's a lie. Nobody is whole. We are all, every single one of us, walking around with cracks and fractures and fault lines running through our hearts. The question is not whether you're broken. The question is whether you're brave enough to let someone see the breaks. People always ask me, Elon, how did you keep going after 3 rocket failures? How did you risk everything on a 4th launch? And I always give the engineering answer, the business answer, the logical answer. But tonight, I'll give you the real answer. I kept going because I realized that the rockets in my heart were the same story. Falcon 1 failed 3 times, 3 catastrophic, public, humiliating failures. And every time the world said, give up, it's over. You're not meant for this. And every time I went back to the factory and I looked at the wreckage and I found the flaw and I fixed it and I tried again. Why couldn't I do that with love? Why was I willing to risk everything, my money, my reputation, my entire future on a rocket? But I wasn't willing to risk anything on my own heart. The answer was simple and devastating. I valued the mission more than I valued myself, and that had to change. So, I made a decision. I decided to approach love with the same tenacity, the same willingness to fail, the same commitment to iteration, the same refusal to quit that I bring to everything else. Not to optimize love, not to engineer love, but to show up for love with the same courage I show up for everything else. They said I was too broken to love again. The tabloids said it. The comment section said it. The little voice in the back of my head said it every single night. But they were wrong because I did love again. I do love. Not perfectly, God. Not perfectly, but honestly, vulnerably. With my chest wide open and my walls down and my whole, terrified, hopeful, imperfect heart on the table. I love my children with a ferocity that sometimes overwhelms me. I look at them and I think, you will never doubt that you are loved, not for a single day. I will make sure of that, even if I fail at everything else. I love the people who have stood by me. The friends who told me the truth when I didn't want to hear it. The colleagues who believed in the mission when it seemed insane. The strangers who send messages saying, don't give up. And I love myself, finally, imperfectly, but genuinely. I love the kid from Pretoria. I love the man who cried on the factory floor. I love the person who failed publicly and got back up privately. I love all of him, all of me. So here's what I'll leave you with tonight. If you are sitting somewhere right now, in the dark, believing that you are too broken, too damaged, too scarred, too complicated, too much to ever be loved again, I need you to hear me. I have sent rockets to space. I have built electric cars that changed an industry. I have tunneled under cities and connected the world through satellites. But the hardest thing I have ever done, the bravest thing I have ever done, was to look at my own brokenness and say, this does not define me. This does not disqualify me. This is not the end of my story, and it's not the end of yours. You are not too broken to love again. You are not too far gone. You are not too late. You are not too damaged. You are not too old, too young, too scarred, too scared, too anything. You are exactly, precisely, perfectly positioned to love and be loved right now, as you are, with all your cracks and all your light pouring through them. They said I was too broken to love again, but they were wrong. And when they say it about you, and they will, I want you to remember this night. I want you to remember that a man who builds rockets for a living stood in front of you and told you the most revolutionary thing you will ever do is not build a company or change an industry or go to Mars. The most revolutionary thing you will ever do is let yourself be loved. Don't give up on that mission. It's the only one that truly matters. Thank you.